Welcome back to the Countdown to Bond 25. I'm Andrew Fantasia. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and give some love to that subscribe button as well. Otherwise, I will be found in a back alley somewhere with $1 million worth of gold bullet lodged in my skull. Because that's how Scaramanga rolls. And that is the topic of today's movie. Let's get started. The Man with the Golden Gun came out in December 1974, but for some reason, in a lot of places, it's listed as a 1975 movie. I don't know, maybe it's just because the London premiere was 74, but hey, that's the ballpark area. The movie is about Francisco Scaramanga, arguably the best assassin in the world, who's so good at his job because nobody has ever really seen his face or knows what he looks like. He has become so infamous that he charges $1 million per bullet, which makes sense because the bullets he uses are made of solid gold and fired from a gun that is also made from solid gold. Scaramanga is hired by the wealthy owner of a power plant to track down a device called the Solex, which the power plant owner wants to use to help further his business. While Scaramanga steals the Solex, but then he kills his benefactor, takes over the power plant, and decides to sell the Solex technology, which can now fire deadly solar-powered lasers, to the highest bidder, taking him from extremely rich to obscenely rich. Our title song is belted out with hardcore 70s enthusiasm by Lulu. This is a James Bond song, folks. The Man with the Golden Gun. This is a song that's going to get stuck in your head for a long time, and it's definitely the most sexually explicit Bond song, too. I'm not going to go into details here, but if you want to look up the lyrics, you'll see exactly what I mean very quickly. The movie also features a diegetic jazz cover of The Man with the Golden Gun that, depending on whom you ask, myself included, might be even better than the Lulu version. Now, what's interesting is, in the last movie, Live and Let Die, Q was not present, but James Bond still had a bunch of gadgets. In this movie, Q does show up, but James Bond doesn't have gadgets this time. This time, it's Scaramanga, the villain, who's rocking all the cool toys. First and foremost, there is the titular golden gun itself. This gun is custom made, and it's kind of a transformer at the end of the day, because it's made up of a cigarette case, a lighter, and a pen. Scaramanga just quickly screws these three things together, and bada bing, bada boom, bada bang, you've got a golden gun. He also has a device that straps wings to his car, so he has a car plane. It's a car, it's a plane, it's a car plane. It's both. By land, sea, or air. Well, maybe not sea, but by land or air, Scaramanga's finding you. The ladies of The Man with the Golden Gun are very memorable, and I think personally it's because of how different the two of them are. First, you have Maud Adams playing Andrea Anders. Andrea Anders is the girlfriend of Scaramanga, because he's got a different way of getting his jollies. Every time he's hired to kill somebody, he has to have sex beforehand, because that gives him the adrenaline rush he needs to get the job done. And Miss Anders is the unfortunate girlfriend slash sex slave who fills that role. Maud Adams is a really talented actress, and it shows she brings that right balance of fear and desperation to this character. She's terrified of Scaramanga, and she turns to Bond for help, hoping he can pull her out of this horrible life she's found herself trapped in. But like a whole lot of Bond ladies, she does not live through to the end of the movie. Instead, we're stuck with Miss Goodnight, played by Britt Ekland. Now, remember in Diamonds Are Forever how I mentioned that when Tiffany Case was written, she started off really competent, and then they just turned her into a dummy? Well, they didn't learn from their mistakes, because Miss Goodnight is dumb from minute 1 to closing credits. And what's really odd is that she is working for the British Secret Service. She is James Bond's co-worker. She's another agent along on this mission with him. You would think somebody who works for MI6, who goes out on a mission in the field with James Bond, would be a smart human being. You would assume. Goodnight is not. She is a ditzy klutz who almost gets James killed several times over. She inadvertently gives the dangerous MacGuffin right into the hands of the villains. She is just played as an absolute Dumbo. This is one of the worst treatments of women you will see in a Bond film, and it gets worse. Just wait till the most sexist, racist moment comes up. For villains, we start off with Hai Fat, who is the Chinese businessman who owns this power plant. Initially, he hires Scaramanga to take down his competition and to steal the Solex machine for him. Of course, Hai Fat is promptly murdered by Scaramanga, whose greed gets the better of him when he decides, hey, I'll be the new chairman of the board and take this thing over for myself. Scaramanga himself is played by Christopher Lee, one of the greatest English actors of the 20th century. You can't not enjoy Christopher Lee. He played villains like nobody's business. And he's such a good assassin that he considers himself to be on equal playing field with James Bond. He idolizes James as a worthy opponent. And he really plays up that fascination. You get a good actor like Christopher Lee, you're gonna get good character work. So you can always see that twinkle in Scaramanga's eyes as he sizes up his foe and realizes with like a hungry giddiness, like a kid at Christmas, that this is the challenge he's been waiting a lifetime for. Finally, there is his henchman, one of the coolest henchmen in the franchise, Herve Villachez, playing Knick-Knack. For some reason, I find it so comforting that both here and in Fantasy Island, Herve Villachez is playing the second-in-command to a strange, tall man who walks around in a white suit on a private island that they own together, calling out that a plane is coming, bringing visitors who usually go through some kind of trial by fire before they're allowed to leave again. The similarities are startling, and I wouldn't be surprised if Herve Villachez got hired on Fantasy Island strictly because of the man with the golden gun. Knick-Knack is like the Alfred to Scaramanga's Batman. He controls everything from behind the scenes. He has little tunnels that he uses to worm his way through the whole island. He cooks, he cleans, he sets up challenges. He's just the best friend you could possibly ask for. The man with the golden gun has one of the strangest and probably stupidest death traps you will ever see. James is at the mercy of the villains. Knick-Knack is ready to kill him with a well-placed trident to the neck, and High Fat decides, no, don't kill him here. This is my home. Instead, let's send him to this kung fu school and hope that the kung fu students kill him. But the kung fu school has no security around it, so he can escape it incredibly easily, which is exactly what happens. This is why High Fat got killed halfway through the movie. Because of stupid choices like this. As is almost always the case, James Bond has hands down the best quote of the movie. He's shaken down a customs weapons designer who creates many strange custom weapons, up to and including Scaramanga's golden gun and golden bullets. Trying to get information, James Bond casually strolls into his underground workshop and points a rifle at him. Now this guy's going on about client confidentiality and how he can't give up any details, so James Bond points the rifle and says, "I'm now aiming directly at your groin. So speak, or forever hold your peace." As far as double entendres go in this series, that's one of the best you'll find. The most sexist, racist moment in The Man with the Golden Gun. Oh boy, you might want to put on some coffee for this one. I mentioned Miss Goodnight and how awfully she was written. I also mentioned Knick-Knack, who, if you don't know Hervé Villachez, is a little person. Ian Fleming was about as kind to little people as he was to every other minority. James also does what I might consider to be the meanest thing he has ever done to one of the Bond ladies. Miss Goodnight has expressed that she has feelings for Bond. She is in his hotel room, ready to get it on, and she's all starry-eyed. She clearly has feelings for this guy, who is also her co-worker, but that's neither here nor there. They're just about to do the deed when there's a knock at the door. He tells her to hide. So she hides in the closet, and the person who comes in the room is Maud Adams, Andrea Anders. Now, Maud Adams has information she wants to give Bond regarding Scaramanga and the Solex machine, and in order to get the information out of her and ensure that it's legit, James Bond proceeds to have sex with Miss Anders. Right there, less than 10 feet away from where Miss Goodnight, who has just expressed she has feelings for Bond, is huddled uncomfortably in a closet listening to it for 2 straight hours. That is the most dick-headed thing James Bond, or maybe any hero ever, has done in cinema. But that is still not the worst sin of The Man with the Golden Gun. No, it's not. The worst sin comes when we are in, I believe, Thailand or China. I can't remember. He hops around a lot in this movie. But we see Sheriff J.W. Pepper, the caricature Southern sheriff who we met in the last movie. J.W. Pepper is on vacation here in the Far East with his wife. How she talked this incredibly insensitive man into going to a foreign country, I'll never know, but that must mean that his wife has some powerful sway in that household. J.W. Pepper has way too many lines and way too much screen time in this movie. And the sad part is the majority of his lines involve him yelling at the Asian locals and calling them, among other things, pointy heads. Now, one could make the argument that the movie is trying to make fun of racist, fat Southern American sheriffs, so maybe that's the whole idea, is we're supposed to hate this guy, but it's still just unnecessary, man. There's plenty of plot going on. You don't need to keep cutting back to this guy shouting derogatory terms to the locals. You don't need that. Thankfully, one of the locals is a very competent ally for James Bond. It's this guy, Lieutenant Hip. He is one of the most invaluable allies James will ever have. It's a shame we never got to see Lieutenant Hip again. But we did get to learn something interesting. Remember, in the Thunderball episode, I talked about how I'm obsessed with the other 00 agents and I want to find out who who they are and what they're all about. Well, in The Man with the Golden Gun, we learn that 002, who is unfortunately dead now, was a guy named Bill Fairbanks. That's it. We don't know anything else about him, just that Bill Fairbanks was 002, and he got killed by the Man with the Golden Gun. So that's really cool, because right away it tells you Scaramanga is so big a threat that he took out a 00 agent. That's a great way to raise the stakes. Another really interesting note is that there are only 2 movies in the entire franchise in which a child has a speaking role. The first one was Diamonds Are Forever, and the second one is this. There's a little boy who's trying to sell a wooden elephant who James Bond very rudely pushes off his boat. Anyone who's a connoisseur of George Lucas movies could probably tell you that randomly throwing in child characters into a franchise that has been primarily composed of adults is never a great move. Look no further. Here's some proof. Diamonds Are Forever and The Man with the Golden Gun are very cartoony movies compared with the other entries in the franchise. The Man with the Golden Gun is played as a straight-up comedy, folks. That's what they wanted. That's what the director intended. Yes, I can't speak for the director because I've never met him and I probably never will, but let's face it, if the director didn't want this to be a straight-up comedy, you wouldn't have 15 minutes of J.W. Pepper. That wouldn't have happened. Trust me. Instead, we're left with a movie where we have J.W. Pepper in spades, flippant racism, a child who James Bond pushes out of a boat, a kung fu school used as a death trap, and a climax that takes place in a multicolored funhouse on a private tropical island. It somehow straddles the line of being a ridiculous comedy of errors while still being a James Bond movie. So I have to kind of give it props for that. And yes, it's the second James Bond movie I ever watched in my life after Live and Let Die, so I have that little bias towards it as well. But The Man with the Golden Gun is a hell of a fun time. And if you are familiar with the GoldenEye 64 game, you know that golden gun is the deadliest weapon you can lay your grubby little mitts on. One shot kill, baby. Scaramanga don't mess around. That's been The Man with the Golden Gun. Thanks for tuning in. Come back right here tomorrow, because like heaven above me, the spy who loved me is keeping all my secrets safe tonight. The countdown to Bond 25 continues.